What's up, everyone? Good to see you, Steve.
How you doing? How you feeling?
Not too bad. I know I missed last week. I was sorry to miss it. Good show last week?
It was a very good show. You were seriously missed. We carried on without you. We mentioned you about 16 times, and now you're back. So we've been praying for you. Everything's good health wise?
Yeah, really good. So I actually, I'm not sure if you knew since last we spoke, but my podcast was actually designated as in the top 10 podcasts for relationships, love, and I forgot what the other thing was. But yeah, I was really excited. It was a great way to wake up. I know it was way back on Valentine's Day, but I didn't get to celebrate it last week. So I wanted to bring that up because it was a cool way to start my day then.
Top 10. Not bad. Not too shabby.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, nowhere nearly as amazing as this show that we've been doing for the past what, almost 4 years now.
Almost 4 years. But to make a top 10 list of the work that you do, it must be satisfying, but also empowering at the same time.
Sure. I mean, we know what it's like to be here, every single week is we love showing up. We love sharing all this information with other people. And like my show is really just about inspiring people just like this show to make sure that people that are stuck in toxic relationships know and understand that they can create something different. If we can change one life by what we share, it's all worth it.
Well, you're changing a lot of lives, not just by the podcast, not just by this show, not just by who you are, but you have a book out there. Talk about your book to everybody.
Sure. My book, Being Love Shouldn't Hurt, was written to really inspire other people because I found, and I keep finding it more and more, there are so many people out there that are suffering in silence in these unhealthy relationships. They think that nobody else is dealing with it. They're embarrassed, there's shame, there's guilt, there's all these other things associated with it. And instead of getting the help that they need to be able to move forward, they get stuck. So this book is really meant to shine a light, to be real and raw and let other people know like, hey, this happened to me. But more importantly, this happened to me and I can, just like you can, create something different. So you can get that on Amazon. If you go to my website, actually, beingloveshouldn'thurt.com, you can actually order it there and I will even personally sign it for you. So go ahead and grab a copy for yourself or maybe somebody else that might need it to really inspire them to heal and create their best lives.
Now, you picked out something a couple of weeks ago. We haven't talked about it because you've been ill and the different things since the Super Bowl, Taylor Swift and the whole Kelsey thing. Talk about that briefly. How did that sit with you?
So anyone who missed it, because I am not a sports fan, as Steve will make fun of me for, because I could, like, oh, which ball is that? Is that the oblong one or the whatever? I have no idea. So I'm not a sports fan. And, I don't know what's common practice. But for those of you who didn't see it or missed it, Travis Kelce actually lost his temper to his coach and actually pushed him and was yelling in his face. And of course, a lot of people got really upset about how he behaved because he is dating Taylor Swift. And we know Taylor Swift isn't necessarily that great with choosing partners for relationships. So when a lot of us saw that, me definitely included, I saw that, I was like, oh, this is a really giant red flag. Now it's interesting because, and I'd love your take on this too, Steve, when I made several videos now since then, and a whole bunch of people are like coming at me angry, saying that I don't know sports and that aggressive alpha men, this is how they behave, this is what they do, and I need to like stop being so triggered and just realize this is sports. So I'd love your thoughts because I know that I wouldn't want my kids to see that as sportsmanship like behavior. What's your take?
No, I'm a sports guy, and I saw it unfold. My first reaction, so I'm not playing Monday morning quarterback here, was what in the world is going on there? That is a precursor of a mind that could lose it at any moment. And I think during the heat of battle, a game or anything, that's when tempers flare and you find out true personality. So I think it went beyond the sports world in that thing because I think that he actually got into his face. He touched him, pushed him, and the coach who's been, kind of, he's a Hall of Fame coach out there and got a Hall of Famer too. I realize it's a Super Bowl. I realize what's at stake. However, that's bordering on inappropriate, aggressive, assaultive stuff. But it kind of got lost in the shuffle. Can you imagine if the Chiefs would have lost, how the focus might have changed and might have helped other people in that situation? But the Chiefs won. They'll sweep under the carpet. you're very wise to bring it up because this is what we do. And I think that's just a little microcosm of society, but it was it was for the world to see. And it was very upsetting, and to see kids watching something like that. I think we need to get a handle on that. But, you brought it up because I think it's wise to.
Well, and I mean, there's a few things too. The coach is 65 years old. He had like hip issues,
Right.
So right there, that's like, oh yeah, like beat up the old guy. That's just not cool. If it was another player that he was getting into that with, it wouldn't have even been as weird to me. It was more so that it was supposed to be someone he respected. And you're right, in the heat of the moment, people say and do things that maybe they wouldn't normally do, but who else are you going to get into the heat of the moment with other than a partner? We get people that we love more than anything can push our buttons more than anyone else in the world. So if that can happen in someone that he allegedly respects, and of course, Reed was like, oh, we're friends. It's okay. Not a big deal. Like you said, pushed it under the rug. But it really makes me wonder, like, what else is acceptable? And statistically, it's actually sports like football, boxing, what's wrestling, some of those other like high impact sports actually have increased traumatic brain injuries. And it is believed that one of the reasons why those sports have such high rates of domestic violence is because of the TBIs, the traumatic brain injuries. And so again, I'm not saying that Travis Kelce is an abusive person. I don't know. I don't know any of the story. To me though, if nothing else, it's a giant red flag. Because if I saw someone acting that way to my sister, my friend, my dad, somebody else I cared about, I would be very concerned.
Well, it just goes to show the announcers live at the game that were announcing the game on TV didn't really respond to it because I don't think they knew how to. And I think it brings up something beyond the sports world, but, we'll take that on as the weeks unfold, because it's a good point. I want to talk about Gabby too, Petito, the Long Island girl. We're going to come back to that in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about that. But we have a great guest, Debbie Harris. She's a health coach. She's from New York, I believe, and she now lives in Connecticut. So we got we got 3 New Yorkers here on the show.
One that still lives in New York and 2 that don't anymore, the expats from New York. But Debbie actually was really cool because her and I actually connected on LinkedIn and we started chatting. And after just a little bit, I was like, I need to have you on my show. I love what you're sharing. I love what you're saying. And of course, Kicking Healthy Relationships to the Curb is not just about romantic relationships. It's about all relationships that we have. And I find that, she works with women who are more mature, we'll say nicely. And, for some of us, we feel like, hey, I can't lose the weight because I'm getting older and it's just not possible for me. But I love what Debbie's doing because it's really talking about being real. Like, let's eat real food. Let's take care of ourselves and really inspiring people that unhealthy habit of believing that it's not possible to create that next best chapter and that next best body that we're looking for, that it is possible to create health at any age. So let's bring on Debbie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, you guys. Yes, New Yorkers here today. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. This is Kicking Healthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. We're here every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. And you have to check your local listing because we're on several cable outlets and social media platforms. So, Debbie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we won't talk about why you both left New York. We're going to talk about Debbie Harris, what you do and why you do it.
What I do is help people get out of the diet craziness, particularly women, as Stephanie mentioned, us wisdom women.
I like that. I like the wisdom.
I recently celebrated my Medicare birthday, I call it. And what happens as we get more wisdom, us women, is menopause is an issue that perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, it starts to become very difficult to take excess weight off, especially around the middle. And I am a lifelong dieter, starting probably at age 10 or 11. until I found a way to actually eat real food and keep the weight off. And that's what we're trying to teach people. And I love the unhealthy relationship and what you said, Stephanie, because food is our first relationship. And starting in infancy or even before we're born, I mean, you can't live without food. So unlike other things that you might find that you are addicted to that are unhealthy, you can't go cold turkey with food. And you can't sustain a healthy lifestyle if it's just really freaking weird. I mean, if you're eating weird things, if you're doing weird things, it doesn't work. It simply doesn't work.
And Debbie, how do you, when you're in the clients that you work with, how do you change somebody that's a dieter to changing their lifestyle and mindset? Is that difficult for you, or is that kind of a process?
It's a process. And the very, very first thing we do is we have a 30-day balancing method. What happens, and this is true regardless of menopause, regardless of women, men, it doesn't matter. We tend to get out of balance. And the one main hormone that tends to get out of balance is cortisol. Why? Stress. I mean, we all know about stress, our environment, the foods we eat. There's many things that happen where your cortisol gets out of balance, your insulin gets out of balance. Look at all the people that we're now dealing with diabetes, even at such a young age. So the very first thing we do is balance hormones, and that's a 30-day process. No drugs, no shots, no chemicals. We have a homeopathic drop, and we have vitamins, and you eat real food. You go to the grocery store, you buy your food, you eat 3 meals a day. So the very first thing that people notice, they're sleeping better. They don't have aches and pains. They're checking in with their doctor. Often they come off blood sugar medication. Insulin gets reduced. We've had cholesterol drop we had one client after 3 weeks drop 53 points. And the weight starts coming off, especially around that middle. And this is men and women. So that is the very first thing. We do cut out certain things during that balancing phase, things that we know tend to cause inflammation, tend to cause stress on the body, tend to cause sensitivities or allergies. And then after that, we start adding food back. Because if you can't eat the things you want to eat, if you don't learn how to eat the things you want to eat, you're never going to stick to it's never going to become a lifestyle. Never.
So Debbie, let me stop you for a second. So can you name some of those foods? Because people are watching and they're hoping the foods are on there or not on there. Can you just name a few?
Sure. That's the one. Now, I don't want to scare anyone. You can live without anything for 30 days. And
right.
The point is, you start feeling so much better within the first 3 or 4 days, and you get on the scale every morning and it's going down. It doesn't matter. So in the first 30 days, we take out fat, we take out dairy, we take out sugar and starch. And for those of you, for some people, this is the toughest one, alcohol. In those 30 days. So you're having coffee and people say, are you crazy? There's no chance that I'm going to have my coffee without cream or milk in it. We use, and we have about 9 different flavors of pure liquid stevia. So we've had clients come back to us after a few months and say, I can never put milk or cream in my coffee again.
Wow.
I put a few drops of stevia and I've been using chocolate flavored lately. So that's what we're not having in the first 30 days. However, we are having as many non-starchy vegetables as we want. We're having 2 fruits a day. We're having 3 meals. We're having protein, meat, fish, chicken.
Wow.
You know, you're eating. In other words, you're going to the store, buying food and eating it. And it is amazing how the body will heal itself.
Wow.
What do you say to people? I think one of the things, and this is, I know Steve, that he's like, "Ooh, what foods can I have and not have?"
Stephanie, don't make this show about me, will you?
but I think that one of those things, people are afraid, especially the dieting culture, of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to eat 3 meals a day. I'm going to gain weight. I can't do that. So there's that
Right.
part of it. And then there's the other part of like, well, but I don't want to go 30 days without my sugary whatevers, or, so there's all these things. And let's be honest, those are all things that sabotage us, but we can go on to that too. But like, how do you deal with that when people that are like, oh, I'm going to gain weight, or, oh, I can't do it, it's too long?
Most of the time, and those are great questions. Most of the time in the first 30 days, you are eating 3 meals a day, but you're not eating unlimited amount of protein. So you are cutting back. So most people, and again, you immediately start seeing results. Where I get that question more, Stephanie, is when after the 30 days, you go into a phase 2 and you start adding food back. And they say, I don't understand. Now I'm adding more food every day and every week, and I'm still going to reduce? Yes, because your body is now balanced. So I don't get that much of that in there. What was the second part of your question?
Well, or the people that are like, I don't know if I can do the no cream or no sugars or whatever, and they get like that. They get scared that they're going to miss out on their snack.
Yeah. Let me address that because, and I say this in the kindest way to everyone out there listening, we have excuses for everything. It doesn't matter. The old, I just wrote an article and I started it with Scarlett O'Hara's, I can't think about that right now. If I think about it, I'll go crazy. I'll think about it tomorrow. There's anniversaries, there's birthdays, there's weddings, there's travel, you name it, there are excuses. And you probably find this too in your work, Stephanie, when people really can identify, and I help them with that, when people can really identify their why, what is really going on? And it's usually health related or, family history of something that they want to negate and whatever that might be. Once you can get people to their why, it makes a real difference. And in my VIP program for women over 45, we spend a lot of time in coaching on that. And we also do some hypnosis, which helps them get into that up here.
Because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of, and I find this with my work too, is that people will say, I want to heal and reinvent myself and create my best life. I want to lose 20 pounds and be super healthy. But then everything they're doing is literally sabotaging what they say they want to do. So there's this disconnect.
There is. And there's on my website a downloadable article on dealing with negative self-talk when you're trying to lose weight, because that little creature, what's another slice of pizza? Oh, come on, your friends are here. You got to go to brunch. You got to have the roll. You got to have the this, the that, whatever it is. We are so conditioned to that voice. We have to learn what to do with that voice. And I usually say to people, what does it look like? Does it look like a gremlin? What does it look like? What does that voice look like visually to you? And then let's build a relationship with it and let's heal it. Because the main thing to remember is control and freedom. There is no food that you can never eat unless you're allergic to it, of course. There is no food that you have to completely disregard. What you do is you learn how to eat that food and you learn how it relates to your body. And that is the key. So you can...
I was going to say, so it's funny because you're talking about this. I actually just had this conversation with my husband the other day. I remember in high school, I used to love cinnamon rolls. I've never had a Cinnabon, but in high school, cinnamon rolls were like my go-to. And I don't remember at what point in my life, it was probably still like 11th grade or whatever. But I remember at one point having this aha moment and I was like, every time it tastes so good. And then about 30 minutes or an hour afterwards, I feel awful. I just feel terrible. And in about 11th grade, I realized I don't ever want to eat a cinnamon roll ever again. And I really haven't. I've had like a bite of one. I've had a little bit just for the taste, but then I don't need the entire thing. And I learned that lesson on that thing way back then. But it's interesting how so many people, there's these things that taste good for the moment. We overdo it and then we feel awful, but we keep doing it.
You are so right, and you are light years ahead of most people. So people learn what their triggers are. For me, if I if I'm somewhere and someone has cashews out or pecans, I mean, I literally have to have the bowl taken away from me, or no one else at the event will get any. I can assure you of that. So what does that mean? That means I don't have those in the house.
Mhm.
And if I do buy a bag of cashews, like a couple weeks ago, we had friends over, they take it with them when they go. Because,
Okay.
and we teach people, what are your trigger foods? Some people can eat one potato chip. Some people can eat one cashew. Some people can sit down, and a lot of people, including myself, can put away popcorn like there's no tomorrow. Like there's no tomorrow. And what people learn is, whatever the food is, it's exactly what you just said, Stephanie. Oh my God, Deb, I feel like crap the next day. Okay, well, that doesn't mean I had 2 slices of pizza. I woke up, my eyes were swollen, my fingers hurt, I'm all bloated. That doesn't mean you're never going to have the 2 slices of pizza or however much pizza. What it does mean is that you know exactly what to do the next day. And because your body's balanced now, it isn't going to store all that as fat. So you're going to be able to live within a 2 to 4 pound range and live. That is the key, and not be obsessed about food.
But you're almost out of time. But Debbie, what's the most rewarding aspect and challenging aspect of the work that you do?
The most rewarding aspect is easy. Messages every day from people saying, "You gave me my life back," or "I just came from my doctor and she said, I don't know what to say to you. Everything's perfect." And we're talking about people from age 28 to age 75.
Wow.
The most challenging is exactly what Stephanie was just saying. People really, when they're ready, but they have to be ready. When you're ready to make the commitment, you will absolutely get healthy. You will absolutely take the weight off, and you will feel amazing. But it's getting people to that point. That's a challenge sometimes.
Now, the work that you do, Debbie, do you work collectively with medical teams, or do you get pushback from the medical society in your view? How does that work as a collaborative, holistic approach?
It's not really collaborative. I have many clients who've come to us who say the medical community has let me down. In fact, a recent nurse who went to 2 doctors, both wanted to give her either shots or a pill. So unfortunately, doctors are still not taught nutrition. And the whole idea of using food and how powerful food is it's not mainstream yet. But people spend a fortune on the next hot thing. And unfortunately, right now, they are using some drugs that who knows what might be the long-term effects.
Right.
Using it to take weight off, and that's all.
Yeah, there's a lot of things out there. It's very confusing. You see somebody like a Katie Clarkson, Kelly Clarkson, and all of a sudden she makes it, and people are questioning, like, how does that happen overnight? It seems like, and I guess you get that kind of conflicting, things that are out there, right?
Yep. And you just have to, and that's why we really focus on eating real food with real support and real accountability. That's the key.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right, is that there's so much information out there when it comes to food, and I'll say there's also so much misinformation. And I think it's really hard, I think, sometimes for people to differentiate, especially because doctors don't have the right information to even share. So, like there still now, which I have my other doctor friends completely disagree with it, but like if you have an issue with diverticulitis, doctors will tell you to eat like all white bread, all white potatoes, things like that. But the weird side effect of that is causing more inflammation in your colon, which would increase the chance of diverticulitis. But those doctors that still teach that are in the old school of like, well, it's swollen, so we don't want to get anything stuck. But how about you heal the reason why it's swollen to begin with, and then you won't have diverticulitis. But again, these doctors are not getting trained with the right information, so they can't share that with their patients.
No, and we're fortunate that naturopaths is pretty much mainstream. throughout the country, as well as functional medicine doctors. They have taken the middle road between, they are MDs, but they are looking at the root cause of something versus let's just cover it up so it doesn't bother you anymore. So I encourage anybody who does have concerns to reach out to a functional medicine doctor in their area or a licensed naturopath and see what might be at the root cause, because everyone is different. So our program gets individualized for everyone.
We have two quick questions for you. 2024, we still have 9 to 10 months left. What are some of your goals for this year, and how can people contact you?
My goals are to continue building my VIP program for women 45 and over. That's a year-long journey. And it includes, besides me as a private coach, it includes the hypnosis as well. People can reach out to me at Debbie, Debbie, at mainstreetvip.com. Main Street is spelled with a Y, MAYNESTREET, VIP.com. And you can also give me a call at 860-322-4725. And that is a textable number as well.
Wow.
And I'm happy to. On my website, Main Street VIP, there is a spot there for a few questions, and I am always open. You can schedule a 30-minute free, no obligation, complimentary session with me, and we can talk about what might help you.
And in front, we actually have less than a minute. Did you pivot during the pandemic, or did that kind of change things, how you approach helping people?
That's a funny question. I was in a completely different line of work.
Really?
And it was my journey that led me to this and my commitment to help others. And my journey happened during the pandemic.
Wow. We're going to have to get you back on. This is like a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
This is like, we got to find out what happened with Debbie during the pandemic.
I wasn't even here. I was in Nevada.
Wow.
Yes.
All right.
Nice.
Well, let's book her again, Stephanie, because we need to hear this story.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Deb, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. This is relationships to the curb. And what an amazing guest.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I knew when I talked to her, we had to have her on the show. I love all the things that she shared. And I know we do talk a lot about plant-based eating, and I wanted to have a little bit of a different perspective of, what we can do. But I'll tell you, even she says the dairy is the big one, Steve.
That's right. I don't like how you flipped this show, but we're going to talk about this on next week's show. Thank you, Stephanie. Have a great day.